Hello, everybody. It's Dimitri. I really liked this part two because I feel like you did a really good job building off of kind of what we learned about part one. I guess one of the things I didn't realize about like creativity is in respect to its definition is like its relevancy and its novelty in that like relevancy is like being able to actually solve the problem, and then novelty is kind of like doing it in an original way. And I think the interesting thing about that is you don't always necessarily have to invent something new to be creative. You might be able to take something that's already kind of been created and maybe tweak it a little bit and use it for something else, and solve a problem that way, fix something that way. So it doesn't always necessarily have to be like some new invention like the iPhone or something to be considered creative. I guess one of the things about like the myths is I feel like after watching that video, most people kind of associate creativity, like I kind of mentioned, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, kind of people pioneering different technology and things like that. And it brought up church ministers and preachers. And one thing that I think is really interesting about that is if you guys are on USF campus a lot like I am, you probably know those preachers that come to the library and they say oftentimes very inflammatory and many would kind of call triggering things, right? And a lot of people are like, why would they do that? Why do they want to piss people off in the way they're doing it? And the creativity that they're using is basically making people listen to them, right? If they were just saying, I guess, very PC, very socially acceptable things, they wouldn't have as strong of a pull on the students, right? And I would go by and I would see kids at these like the crowds, kids in the crowd from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The same kids in this crowd, right? Now, sure, okay, some might have left and come back, etc. But the fact that they're able to pull people in that hate them and make those people engage them for hours is very creative. I might not agree with what they say, but the way they do it is kind of interesting. I have to admit. The two common approaches to creative thinking, as the readings talk about, divergent and convergent thinking. Divergence, I guess, more preliminary. You kind of brainstorm a wide variety of possibilities, of strategies, and then convergent thinking is kind of narrowing down that search into what kind of best fits that scenario in order to best solve your problem. We'll give I'm reading the rubric here. Give a real world example of creative change process. I guess when you look at the creative change process, I think one thing that struck me in my marketing class actually was Netflix. Netflix was kind of only like a streaming service for other companies. And Netflix, was doing pretty well. People were watching Netflix, but Netflix kind of realized that with the budget that they have, that it would be smart for them to make their own production. And so kind of what Netflix started doing is they started making Netflix original series, Netflix original movies, and kind of like the way creativity works and kind of innovation in general is it's kind of contagious. It's obviously very important to be creative in a business sense because it keeps you competitive in the market. And so when Netflix goes from obviously streaming other people's stuff to now making their own stuff, a lot of companies kind of did the opposite in that they made stuff and then started streaming stuff. You could look at Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. A lot of companies that, had their own, I guess, material, started streaming their own material. And so, just like how Netflix started making their own stuff, these other companies started streaming their own stuff. That way, everyone could kind of stay competitive. And if Netflix hadn't, used creative thinking to kind of pioneer that, this might have not happened. There might have only been, now sure, it might have developed differently, but it really kind of created the variety we have today to be able to watch Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, um, all those streaming services is really because of just the creativity of being able to allow people to access